story?
I don't know. I mean, this is how Corey and I are. I'll say that Northwest School of the Arts was on the chopping block years ago, and they were getting ready to close it down or just turn it into a traditional school, and I was very upset about that. And so through that, became friends with Corey, and so when he asked me to do this project, I said, sure, but I thought it was about 3.5 week commitment. No money, 3.5 weeks, well, 3.5 years later, still no money. Still no money.
Yeah.
We, by the grace of God, just, kept filming, and the story kept getting better, and I'm like, I can't stop now. And then they go to Nebraska, can't stop now, and he wins the Tony Award, can't stop now. So, and I'd love to do a follow-up. Jay, I'd love to do a documentary about where these students are now, because it's pretty remarkable.
It is. It really is. Sorry, John. Like, Philip right now is on stage literally at this moment because he's the Tin Man in the Wiz on Broadway. Let's see. I think I sit here whispering with Jillian through this whole thing because so many of the kids, the young man that was a stage manager, Jordan, is a part of the, he's a producer now, working as a producer, and one of the shows that he worked on, Hell's Kitchen, is nominated for a Tony this year for Best Musical. So he's a producer. Trey and Demond and several of the other kids that you saw in this are now professional, like dancers. If you spotted Eva Noblezada through that, Eva is playing Daisy now in The Great Gatsby on Broadway. Oh gosh, like so many, Mackay. Mackay is about to be on the board for Theater Gap, and he is, I'm not supposed to talk about it, but I can't help it, but Mackay is in development for a show that he wrote during the pandemic that's being produced by Sarah Jessica Parker's thing, and is bought by Showtime. So he's got literally a television show coming that'll start filming at the end of the summer. So so many of these kids, it's funny to me, Keston said she was never going to have a baby. She's married and has a baby, has a son, and is the worship leader at her church, so she's still singing. It's like amazing how many of these kids young people are, because they're grown, young people are like working professionally and doing really incredible and unexpected things. So yeah, that's the quick update. And Brittany did get her college degree, so everybody has. Yes, it was a hard-fought thing, but yes, it took many tries, but Brittany she got her degree and is working, oh gosh, I'll have to ask her where she's working now, but she's getting things done, so I'm very happy for her.
Yeah, and again, I think, for me in particular too, because I obviously haven't lived with this movie as long as you all have, because you made it and took years and years to make it. But when I first saw this movie in 2016, does that sound right? Probably at the festival that year?
2017.
2017, so, I feel like I've lived with this movie for a long time, and part of what I noticed this evening in particular is at the end when you say theater education matters, art matters, that's very, to heart to me as well. And then all these statements about thinking about where those students were when this was made, and now we fast forward almost a decade and where they are now, and how this movie in some ways is kind of a testament to that kind of ending statement of this production and what happened. And this isn't the only one, this is all theater productions that all theater educators or art educators are engaging with. This is what happens when you fast forward 10 years and you have the statements that you just made, Corey. So I think that was really good to kind of get that update, because that's what I was thinking. I just want to ask another quick question too, and then hopefully the audience has some questions, because I want to bring John in here, because obviously that's not the end of the story, that's not the end of the story. So in particular, how do you get involved, and then how do you get involved in kind of editing down years and years and years of footage with Joanne and your other editing team? Because again, years and years of footage becomes a 72-minute movie. I'm just curious, what your process was like, and then also as you're shaping the story too, right? Because it's a documentary, but you're still shaping it in some way, shape, or form. So I'm just interested in some thoughts on that and working with Corey and Joanne to shape it.
Well, it was, wow, how many hours?
300 hours.
300 hours of footage. Joanne shot most of it, and there were so many. I was just watching it and just thinking, oh, this story. Well, when Mackay got lost and got locked out of the college auditions and almost didn't get to audition for the colleges, and just all the stories that we left out and that were in there and were taken out, and this thing went through so many just different incarnations, versions of it.
Is there anything in particular that you can think of that got sort of left on the cutting room floor? Either Corey or Joanne John, that sort of was something that you really wanted in there, but it just didn't? A story like that?
There
Yeah.
are plenty.
Did you have a gem of an idea and a thought in there, and you're like, I can't believe you're going to cut this line that I said to them. It's perfect.
Well, one of the things that happened during the during the rehearsal period was that Stephanie Mills actually came to rehearsal, and she sang to the kids, and the kids performed for her, but then ultimately, she didn't really, she didn't agree for the appearance in the film. But I was talking to Mackay last week, and he was like, do you remember when Stephanie Mills came? I'm like, yeah, I remember. So it's little things like that, and then kids along the way. It's really funny. One of the storylines with Danielle, I meant to say this, she is working professionally as an actress in Philadelphia and living with her girlfriend now. So it's also kind of wild with that too. Yeah.
I know that a big challenge for me, and I don't know, maybe for you too, but was fitting in. There was a part where we really wanted to get the importance of arts education in there without bringing the story to a screeching halt. And that was really tough for me. And I know personally there was a moment where I just thought, after a year, it just seemed to click, and I think this will work. And I remember that minute. But gosh, we went through so many versions, and Joanne, was there, and it was just working months on months on a scene that you love, and then just realizing it doesn't fit.
And were you working on an edit while you were shooting? Or did you get all the footage and then have to put something together?
It was all kind of in a lot of different places.
Because we had no money. So we would work on it in between projects, and then we'd set it aside when we go off and work on a paying project, then we'd come back and work on it. So it was,
We
that
had
slowed it
interns
down.
come
We had
in
interns come
to
in.
do things, and sometimes you have to redo.
Yeah, and some lovely people worked
Oh, yeah.
for free on it that I just cannot thank enough. And we had to pay for rights for the music. That was a huge financial part of this.
You seem to run into that a lot with your documentaries, where you always need the rights for these things.
The rights, yeah, and my producer business partner was an entertainment attorney, so she couldn't get, I didn't know.
Yeah.
We had to be very strict with that. So
For a music.
yeah, for a musical.
Last question for me, and then audience, if you have some, let's get you involved. I guess it's a trite question, but the biggest challenge in making the film, and then maybe Corey, for you in particular, and we might have seen it in the movie, I'm not sure, but the biggest challenge you can think of in relation to when you were working on that production and something that really became like a pivotal moment where you're like, this could go one way or another very quickly in the production, in rehearsal, or that would change drastically what we're doing here. So maybe something related to a challenge in the production process, editing. Again, money is obviously the biggest challenge, but maybe if anything else you can think of challenges that really kind of thought, oh, these projects are gonna go drastically differently now, and maybe not for the better.
I do have one thing in particular, but it was very personal, because during this entire time, like my mom she had surgery on her spine. And what had happened was after the surgery, she coded, and they had to intubate her, and she was in a coma. And what was going on is my brother was overseas, so it was just my dad and my sister and I. And what would happen is my dad we were at Presbyterian, he would be at the hospital from like 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Then my sister would come, and it was just like a hotel thing where she would be there from like 3 until 11. And then I would stay at the hospital at night, overnight, until my dad came. And we were in rehearsal, and the kids were rotten. I mean, just like horrible. Can I call high school kids assholes? I'm asking for permission because I didn't say it. They were horrible. And I remember I like broke down in rehearsal, and I went, y'all, my mother is laying in the hospital dying. And I should be there, and I'm here with you all, and you are making it so that I do not want to see your faces. And after that rehearsal, Keston came up to me. It was Keston, and it was Philip, and it was Amani. It was like 2 other kids, Danielle and a couple of others. And they were like, Mr. Mitchell, we want to pray for your mom. And quite literally, that night, after that was the night my mom came out of that coma. And we were at the Halton, and I didn't stay for the loadout because they transferred her from Presbyterian to Baptist Hospital. And so like during all of that time, it just felt like I was just on the edge of cracking through that whole thing. But somehow, you know, as bad as they can be, they could also be really wonderful because they really lifted me up in that moment. So yeah, that was my personal challenge with that. I always knew the show was going to work because I was going to drag them over the finish line no matter what. So yes.
Anything production-wise, or just, again?
I'm glad he's still speaking to me. So.
Yeah, I'm glad y'all still take my call.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I want you guys to see a little video that we put together for Theater Gap Initiative, and a lot of it was shot by the students, and a lot of it was filmed with phones. We'd actually, John and I went down 11 times to film more recently, and then the drive died, and so we don't have that footage anymore unless we spend money to rescue the drive. So anyway, Jillian sent me a bunch of stills and videos that the students shot. We put this together just so you guys could have an idea what Theater Gap Initiative is, and it's very informative, and the reason that Corey needed this is so that he can raise funds and have his board have an understanding of Theater Gap Initiative. So this is a very quick piece that we put together just so it's informational. It's not like a documentary or anything like that. But I thought it would be helpful for you guys to see what he's doing now, and then maybe talk a little bit about Theater Gap Initiative afterwards, so you guys can get a sense of he's not stopping. He's gonna keep doing this until He's in a coma. And I swear to God, this man has the patience of Job. In addition to that, he also is a saint. And there are former students sitting out here. I know I have an intern. Hello, former students. And I have an intern this summer, Olivia, who's a Northwest grad, who's now at Emerson in Boston. So we just know that people like Corey Mitchell make a difference in the world, and we have to support him and all of his efforts. So I want to just let this little 3-minute film short show so you can see what he's up to, and then you guys can ask any kind of questions that you'd like.
In a world where talent knows no boundaries, access should be just as boundless. Introducing the Theater Gap Initiative, a beacon of hope for aspiring artists of color and those from economically distressed backgrounds. Barriers often stand between talented individuals and their dreams of pursuing a BFA in acting or musical theater. That's why TGI has pioneered a transformative 7-month intensive gap year program to address every aspect of the college admissions process. We offer rigorous training in acting, voice, and dance. Students from across the region and across the country can study with TGI in a safe and supervised environment. Our mission doesn't stop at artistic development. We take a holistic approach to nurturing our students, academically, financially, and emotionally. From essay workshops to financial aid seminars, we ensure that every aspect of their journey is supported.
They push you outside of your box. They put you in an environment where you can actually grow and thrive.
All of them, all the time with their busy little lives.
But it doesn't end there. Theater Gap Initiative provides training and support leading up to live auditions in front of some of the finest performing arts programs in the nation. Each year, our students travel and audition at the College Audition Project, known as CAP, in St. Louis, and the National Unified Auditions in New York City. These face-to-face opportunities expose our emerging artists to the possibility and power of a future in the arts.
Helping to make the students better, that is, that's kind of the baseline. But helping to make the system better for the students is where the transformation happens.
These face-to-face opportunities expose our emerging artists to the possibility and power of a future in the arts. Join us and support the Theater Gap Initiative. When you invest in their dreams, you help shape their future.
So I thought it was important for you guys to see what Corey's up to. I wish I had the stamina to do another documentary for no money, but he really has had remarkable success. Can you tell folks a little bit about the students and what they're doing now?
Oh, sure. Well, we just finished our 3rd cycle, and my program director, Jillian Longsworth, is out here too. She tells me I don't say enough good things and I don't brag enough, but I will say that all 3 classes of our students, every single one of those students have gotten at least 3 college admissions. We are finishing out with this year's group. Quite literally, while we were sitting in here, one of our other kids, we are down to 3 more kids that hadn't committed to a college yet, and he just texted that he's committing to Cornish College in Seattle. But kids at schools you've heard of, like NYU and North Carolina School of the Arts, and Florida State, but also schools you've never heard of, like perhaps Western Connecticut or Five Towns College in Long Island. But work because it is such an arduous process, and you can fall off at any point along the way for students, for kids to get into college, right up to acceptances and not having enough of a good enough offer that it becomes feasible for you to go there. And so we work tirelessly, and I mean tirelessly, to help the parents understand what the process looks like, and the kids to kind of get over themselves, because so many of our students are a lot like Brittany, where it's like they want it, but they haven't always had people telling them that it is possible for them. And so having a group of folks really advocating, not just me, for them to go to college and major in acting and musical theater and getting full scholarships to schools is really important to me if we're going to keep producing artists. So yeah, that's it.
Let's have some questions about Theater Gap, or about the film, or the connection between the two. What do you got? Oh, I'll bring a microphone over.
This is easy.
Okay.
Who in the audience here was in the film, worked on the film, helped fund the film? Anybody? Anybody?
Yes!
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yay, Alex.
Yes!
I worked on the film as well. I was assistant editor, and I did DIT. I helped on the music video you guys saw at the end, and just a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Yes! Thank you.
Other questions? I'll do my best Donahue here, okay. Older reference, younger people will not understand.
Hello. So I was interested in a lot of the shots, especially during the production and the rehearsals. There are a lot of dynamic shots of the students doing dancing, doing their theater. There was one shot where they looked like the cameraman might have been in the light section, having the camera pointed downward. So I was interested in knowing how, for one, how difficult that might have been to sort of show the movement and the work being put in by the students through the camera work.
Well, I have to say that John saved me on that, because a lot of the scenes are from rehearsals that we made look like it was part of the production, because we could, but I couldn't get out on stage during the production, but I could get out on the stage during the rehearsals, and every once in a while I'll see myself, because I had a Steadicam, and I was running around on stage with a Steadicam, and then I would send an intern up into the catwalk and keep my fingers crossed that they could, produce some decent imagery. But then John was so good about logging all the footage and having an understanding how to tell the story, knowing that sometimes things would slip around and move. Like the catwalk high angle down was probably not during a physical production, it would probably have been during the rehearsal. But it's smoke and mirrors sometimes. Although we did not change the story at all, we just needed to get coverage of the production with no money.
But like Heidi was hiding back behind scenery sometimes, like especially in Nebraska.
Yeah, Heidi was there, and John was in Nebraska with me filming, and so we were there with multiple cameras getting the coverage.
And the kids just got used to it, y'all.
Yeah, they did.
They didn't care.
They didn't care. Yeah, at first they were a little reticent, but I think they got comfortable with us being there after the first month or so.
Yeah, we became background for them.
Yeah, no big deal. Oh, camera's here. You posted on Instagram, Corey.
Sorry, no.
Hashtag.
I got a dog this week. I adopted a dog this week, and my godson was about to leave, and he's like, "Do you want me to put him in the crate?" And I'm like, "Yes, put him up." Yes, so Yes, because he hasn't been here long enough that I don't know if he won't tear up my shoes.
Oh,
So,
he'll tear up everything, that's what Dr.
yes,
said.
okay, so.
Focus Mitchell. This is Kashara.
We got a question.
So I'm a former student of Corey Mitchell. My name is Kashara Davis. And I'm very, very proud to sit here. I pretty much am at every event pretty much that you have. And I'm just very, very proud of this project. So first of all, just thank you all for finally just getting this out. I've been hungry. I'm honestly wanting to see if we can actually, I work at Northwest now as a former student. It's like a full circle moment. I'm back at my school as the administrative role. So I'm really, really just curious as to what drove you all to be interested in capturing a story like this one, because you did capture a lot of the poverty, a lot of the things that the students were going through. Was there something that surprised you as the filmmakers in this journey? Because there's a lot of things that these students go through. What was the most surprising to you?
We left some of that on the floor. We wanted the students to be proud when they saw this film and not feel like we took advantage of them. So Philip and Makai, Javontre, they all came into the edit suite with John and would watch. They didn't have any creative input, but I wanted them to feel like they were very much a part of this. And this is an interesting side note, which I still, to this day, am dumbfounded about. Earlier on, when we were getting the footage, we started putting together what's called sizzle reels, or an opportunity that here's what we're doing. And we sent it to BET. We thought, this is going to be a great show. BET's going to pick it up. And they said, there's not enough tension between the kids. It's too earnest. And that really was disappointing for me, because that's how the kids are. I mean, they truly supported one another. When Shakayla didn't make Sealy, she was putting on ensemble. You saw the competition. Those girls were outstanding, and they were there in tears. Mr. Mitchell goes, I love you, and I love you girls. And I'm like, I get choked up tonight thinking about that. So there's this misperception out there in the world about Black and brown students. I showed this at an international film festival, and I had a person come up to me and say, how do these Black students, how do you teach them to talk so beautifully? Really? That's just what Corey does. He teaches these. Honestly, I was asked that at an international film festival, and this is after getting that note from BET. So I'm here to put films like this out here so the world can see that these students thrive. They are articulate, they're magical, they're incredibly powerful, positive influencers. I've been so influenced by these young people. They have been a blessing in my life. And it's not just this group. It was the year before this, and it's the year after this, and it's the Theater Gap. This is what Corey is doing in the community. And Theater Gap Initiative is going to roll out, not just here in Charlotte, but in other places. And Corey, talk a little bit about that, because they wouldn't know that you have big dreams.
Oh my gosh, I would not mind. When we started this, and it was an idea after George Floyd, and when we're calling out the industry, you talk about how many kids go into the industry, because I remember driving Kashara to Catawba and introducing to the professors there. I remember Kennedy Joe coming to Nebraska, all of those things to create opportunities for students to see something more than themselves and more than what their current situation is. I mean, I've got this idea that makes Jillian's hair fall out to create, to do a 2.5-week summer camp for students from across the country, which, by the way, currently with TGI, kids from like California and Seattle and Mississippi and Florida and Ohio. It's not just Charlotte students, it's students that move to Charlotte for 7 months and train with us and work and take a chance on themselves to go and do this. But this 2.5-week camp for kids from across the country that are rising seniors to get them over that hump and then take them to New York with my TGI, with our TGI confrere, so that it really looks like a complete takeover of those auditions. You know, showing up with 50 kids in New York, I would probably need to be institutionalized, but B, it makes a statement about who else deserves to sit at the table. And that's what we're all about, so yeah.
I think too, I just would add, because I think Joanne, what you said was really important, and it relates a lot to this idea of the Theater Gap Initiative, is that a movie like this, you know, it does sort of show some audiences who are ignorant and sort of like, these are powerful children or kids or young adults. But it does also show, which leads into the Theater Gap Initiative element of it, is that let the people who know how to do this transform the industry, right? It's not just, and I think you even said that in one of the pieces towards the end there, is that part of the goal here is to transform the industry, not just to give students who are right now the tools to go into the industry, but to actually show that the industry does need to change. And like you said, when 50 kids show up and they're like, this is what we're doing, so you need to be part of what we're doing, not us assimilating into what you're doing. And again, this is an important thing when it comes to arts education, and I know I'm pontificating a little, but because I think that is the thing, is we have these models that exist when you go back to 60s and 70s and 80s theater models, and they're not working anymore. So I think that's the importance and power of the Theater Gap Initiative, which is why I love it. And I'll get to your question. Want to respond?
Oh, no.
Okay, here's a question.
The Bloomies are tomorrow. How many Bloomies did Color Purple win?
0, because we weren't a part of it. We were way too early to have been in it, but then it's ironic. I mentioned Eva Noblezada. The show that we did that year was West Side Story, and she was supposed to have come with us to Nebraska, but she had won Best Actress with the Bloomies, and so she was in New York. She gave her spot up, and she was like, I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna go. My parents paid this money for me to go to Nebraska. And I was like, girl, if you do not take your ass to New York. And what does she do? She ends up like being a runner-up, but then booking Miss Saigon and leaving halfway through her senior year of high school. So that was an amazing opportunity with that. We didn't win any Bloomies with The Color Purple, but then the very next year, several of those kids, like Makai and Philip and Keston, they were all in Shrek, for which we swept in every category again. And then they changed the rules for the Bloomies, so we couldn't do it again. But that's okay. That's okay too. We love it. Yeah.
I'm also a student at UNCSA, so it was nice to see what they're doing and that they're part of the history. For you, Joanne, how did you go about directorially? Obviously, they're great kids and they're very personable, as a lot of people in theater are, but how did you go about getting those things out of them and connecting with them and their professionals? And for you, Corey, how would you go about protecting them, because those are probably your babies and you didn't want to exploit them, as a lot of them come from hard backgrounds. And we see so often in Black and brown homes that they show a lot of struggle stories, like that's all they are. How did you go about navigating that?
We had a conversation early on,
yes.
and Corey said, this is not gonna be a documentary about poor black kids. And I said, I am with you 100% on that. And Trey, the dancer, is my godson. So I think because I'd been around him since he was 8, some of the other students felt that they could trust me. They knew I was not there to exploit them, and we left a lot of stuff on the ground. We cut a lot of stuff out because we just felt like, we don't need to go there. We don't need to go there. You get the picture. Philip's living in the garage with a family of 5, and then Makai's father's still in prison. That's enough. That's enough for you to know they have struggles at home, but it was more about what they were doing at school. And the fact that this school sometimes has a 98, 99, 100% graduation rate, which is unheard of. I think the state of North Carolina is usually in the low 80s, high 70s for graduation rate. Northwest, I think it was 100% last year. It was 100% when you guys were, when you were teaching. So, I mean, that's incredible. That's a testament. And what is one of the things most people are afraid of is speaking in public. These kids can go, well, they're not kids now, but these young people can go anywhere in the world, maintain eye contact, communicate their ideas, have a voice, and how powerful is that? So that's one of the great gifts that Corey has given these young people, is to have a voice in the world.
So, yeah. And Joanne really articulated the answer, but I did say, and the exact term I used was, I do not want poverty porn. And it's one of those things where your talent is the thing, your tenacity, your work ethic, all of those are the things that help to make it better for you, whatever your situation is, because no one's life is perfect. And even if you come from money, there's something else going on at home that makes it difficult. And talent is one of those equalizers. The thing is, opportunity is not always there. And so that was important to me in picking that show, of like really bringing in a lot of students to have that opportunity. And even though it's not really stated in the show, I mean in the documentary, we took 117 people to Nebraska for this. And so it wasn't just the cast, it wasn't just the crew and the orchestra. We took other students with us to have that opportunity. So it was a vehicle for helping to make it better for a lot of other students. This was at the center of it, but the other thing that ripples out with that was also really important to me. Thank you.
I think we have time for one more. Who's gonna? Okay, wait. Always in the back. All right, move up to the front.
Jay, go.
Yeah.
I'd just like to hear a little more about the GAP initiative. How did students come to that program? What would they possibly be doing if they, is this an on-ramp to an arts career that they may not have otherwise? How does they transform in the program? How does that go?
Yes, I'm glad you said that. And as you leave, text 53555 TGI and give. So thank you for coming and thank you for your gift. Jillian would kill me if I didn't say that, but also we need the money. But intentionally, I'm sorry, I had to stand up. It is for students in their gap years, so that all of our students have graduated high school, and a couple of them, some of them have done like a year of community college or something like that, but they're looking to get into a 4-year program. And what we do is, first, it's a 3-pronged thing. We're working their talent, and we've got, 12, 14, something like that, teaching artists that come in week over week to do voice lessons, dance lessons, acting lessons with them in all of these aspects. Secondly, we we place them in opportunities where they can audition. So filming their pre-screens for them, taking them to St. Louis. There are 60-some colleges in St. Louis over that weekend that they audition for. And going to New York, where auditioning for the colleges there doing their final auditions. But then the third prong of it, as I said, is working with them on the financial aid process. So writing the essays for scholarships, working with the colleges and helping the students articulate exactly what their situation is. And for some of our kids, all it is that they live at home. And that's the extent of the support that they receive. And it's not always reflective in their financial aid, like on their FAFSA forms. So literally, Jillian will jump in on a Zoom with the college and say, wait, you're not doing the right thing. Or I'll jump on a phone call and work with them so that the students can get into that. I say a BFA in acting is like a gateway drug because, not every kid's going to become a professional actor, but understanding the business and getting in and earning a degree, number one, students with a college degree just earn more money over their lifetime. So you might as well earn it in something that you like, okay? Secondly, quite often the students use that to transfer into other things and to become like managers or casting agents or stage managers or things like that. So that BFA in acting is the step into the door to be able to work professionally within the arts for their lifetime. And that's what we're looking to do, is get more students understanding how the arts can transform. Okay, yes.
Can you give that text number again?
Yes, if you get out your phones and text TGI to 53555, any gift, no matter how small or how big, is really quite helpful. Or you can visit our website, which is theatergap.org. There is a donate button on there. Jillian will stand in the back, and so will I, with, I'll take my hat off, and you just drop a check in there, and we can do it that way too, if that's too much trouble. Or just give me your credit card, and I promise to spend responsibly.
And just as a follow-up to that, Corey, I'm sure sometimes he's riding around in bald tires and half tank of gas and going, how am I going to make things work? We've had conversations like that, and that's just the nature of the arts. We don't do this. We do this for the love of the arts, not for the love of money. And I think that if he's asking for a little help, he sincerely needs it. But the amazing thing is what he's doing, and Yale University's now involved with the Theater Gap Initiative. I mean, you've got the most prestigious, probably the highest level.
Yes. We have partnerships with Yale School of Drama and with Carnegie Mellon now. We've got
so I mean, and that's here in Charlotte, but again, Corey has bigger vision, and I have no idea what this man's gonna do, but I do love him dearly and I follow what you do, and maybe I'll bring a camera out next time and we'll get some more stuff. So anyway, thank you guys very much for coming to see me. Thank you, John, for speaking to me.
Yeah, I was going to ask John, what are you working on next? Just so, what are you working on?
Oh, right now, doing some small documentaries for a museum.
American Indian Museum.
American Indian Museum, and all about this area up around Morrow Mountain. That's 15,000 years of architectural, not architectural.
Archaeological?
Yeah, that's the one.
And Joanne, what about you?
I'm working with John on this doc, and it's the North Carolina Department of Natural Resources in the state has sanctioned this museum, and they're calling it the American Indian Museum because that's what the governmental contracts were signed as when, unfortunately, we started taking away their lands and all their rights. So they want, and we're working with tribal elders, tribal leaders from the Lumbee and different Indian nations to tell the story about this continuous habitation, 14,000 years, back when woolly mammoths and
way before the pyramids,
mastodons, and they roamed the mountains of North Carolina, and so were these nomadic bands of Indians. So it's pretty crazy. We were standing there the other day, and the professor bent down and he just picked up an arrowhead. It was just right at his feet. It was crazy.
Okay, we'll be on the lookout for that. Maybe it'll screen here.
That'd be great.
Anyway, thank you everybody. I'm sure Joanne, John, and Corey, and Jillian will be happy to talk to you about the film or the Theater Gap Initiative. Please support local arts, hugely important. We appreciate it. Thank you.